Hi everyone, delonewolf here. Welcome back for EVE Talk Part 2. So this is your weekly look at the market in EVE Online. Now in the previous part we've taken a look at the minerals. And as you can see with all the new information I've gotten on supply, demand, volume and stuff like that, it takes a lot more time to check all the goods that I normally check. So we're going for part 2 here. I will have a look at some of these Tech 1 chips. As you can probably tell, this is a little bit of experimentation because I have all of this new information, this new look on the market, and I'm not really sure yet how to do this most efficiently. So right now I'm going to work with several episodes, depending on how much I can cover in a single episode, but it's pretty obvious that just for the minerals I need at least half an hour just to give a full analysis of that market. Anyways, we'll start with the Tech 1 chips and let's have a look if the minerals, which a lot of them have known a significant rise in the last month, if that's had an impact on the Tech 1 chips. And here we can see that for the Drake, that one has gone up from around 42 million ISK up to 44 million in the first part of November. After that it's also corrected a little bit, and is now apparently meeting at around the 43 million ISK mark. Around 200 Drakes on average get sold every day in Jita. Yeah, this is actually pretty similar to what we've seen in most of the minerals in the last month. So let's have a quick look here at demand and supply. I can see 12, 10, 10, 30 at around 41 million, 41.6 million, and then on the sell orders 43, 43, 43 as well. So to me again this looks pretty much in balance. There's not anyone coming in demanding or willing to pay 42, 43 million for 200-300 Drakes or anything like that. This is pretty much stable, and so I do expect the price here to move sideways in the next few days, unless someone comes in with a huge order or with a huge supply of Drakes. But here at the moment I would have to say, yeah, 43 million is the price the chart shows, and supply and demand pretty much in balance here. Next up we'll have a look at the Maelstrom, and that one's been a little bit more violent, going from 166 to 188 and then up to 190 after a small correction, and now correcting back down towards the 176, and even on some of the most recent daily averages well below that, heading towards the 172. Averages, I would put that at around 70-80 Maelstroms a day. And then let's have a look here at supply and demand. I can see there's a pretty big supply here, 13 of them at 180, here again 10 at 180, but the demand just isn't there here. I'm seeing just small orders at 163, so there appears to be oversupply here. The big orders are still trying to unload them at 180. After that, some supply is coming online at 176, 174, 174, 175, 174. So this is going down, and this does seem to be where the action and the competition is. You can see some pretty recent orders here moving down towards 174. So this downtrend here is set to continue in the last few days. And still this Maelstrom chart is pretty much in sync with what we've seen in the minerals, where they've known a rise either in the first half of November or in a major part of November, but they've really been correcting in the last few days. So we'll have a look at the Rock, which is another pretty big battleship, and again we can see going from 172 to 188 in the last week. In the first part of November, pretty much first 20 days here, then correcting a little bit, but it seems to be going back up again. The average volume here though is only around 40, maybe a little bit more than that a day. So let's have a look here at supply and demand, and this is indeed much more interesting. For the rocks, you can see there is some big supply here at 192. There is a little bit of competition, but it's really just small sell orders of 1 unit going for 187, 187, 187. But on the buy order side, big orders are sitting at 166, then 173. But there is some supply coming in at 180, so the 180 price does seem to be supported by some demand at least, which is right around here. And then on the supply side, it's not there, you know. The big supply is sitting at more than 190 million. So if there is enough competition and if there's enough demand, which there does seem to be, because they're still battling it out here, a lot of the recent orders are right here at the 180. This could continue to go back up a little bit. There does seem to be a bit more demand for rocks than supply at the moment. So that's pretty interesting. Although the rock has also known the November rise and then the small correction, it looks like the rock might already be taking back off for higher prices. So let's have a quick look here at the Omen. A very early spike for the Omen, going from 9.2 to close to 9.8 million, then a correction, and here a bit more of a sideways movement, and here unfortunately again a correction at the tail end, around 100 a day. And yeah, the demand just isn't there. You can see that the amount of buy orders are pretty low. There's a few big ones at 8.3 million, which is well below the current price. I mean, that's even below the entire chart here. And the competition for supply is right here. Look at that, 28 willing to be sold at 9.3 million, and that's pretty damn recent, just 10 hours ago. 9.3 is right here, so that's just putting a new top at the price. Under any circumstance, this chart is going to dive below the 9.3 million, because these 28 omens, they just can't be soaked up by the market in half a day or anything like that. This is going to take some time. All the action is here on the supply side, so there is less demand than supply. Yeah, the Omen is going to continue to correct. And there's actually a floor that's looking to be forming at as low as 8.5 million, so that's quite a little bit lower than what we're seeing in the first part of November. Pretty damn interesting. I think this does give a much better indication of what the market is doing. Here for the Talos, again, we can see this November rise going from a low of below 65 million up to 70 million, so it's not that big, but it's still a decent movement. Then again the correction, and here I'm sort of seeing more of a sideways movement. Average numbers probably close to 100, maybe just below that. There's a few spikes here during the price spike, but that's definitely come down a little bit. The question is, can it maintain itself? So here we are seeing a decent amount of demand, at least. Still seeing a little bit more supply here, 76, 76, 76. These are not recent though, whereas on the demand side, 64, 64, 64, 63, that's pretty interesting. That's actually very close, very close. We are seeing here decent numbers at 70. 70, which is right around here, but these are probably all, no, those are actually recent orders. Interesting. So supply is only coming online at around 70 million ISK, where is demand? But the demand just isn't there for this at that price. On the other hand, you can also see that the chart has been moving at around the 60 million mark, so the buy orders do have a strong power of offsetting the price here. And so yeah, I do think 64 million, which is right around here, and then maybe some sell orders get sold, which are, well, they're only coming online at around 70. In general, this feels a lot more in balance though, despite the fact that the big orders are decently far away from each other, you know, 63, 70. Anything in between here, you can see both sell orders and buy orders in between here. So you know, there's not any one side that's really dominating that market, which is probably indicating a further sideways movement for the Talos here. And if I would have to indicate any price range, I would have to put it at around 65 to 69. Anywhere in between that, it's definitely going to either be picked up on a sell order or bought on a buy order. Yeah, pretty much a sideways movement for the Talos. So those were the Take 1 ships. What I find pretty interesting here is that we do see a certain amount of following of the mineral market with the rise that they've known in general through November, and that the rock is knowing a large demand gap, where there's a lot of demand and the supply doesn't seem to be there, and that one does seem to be moving up at the moment, whereas the other ones are slowly continuing their correction, or starting to move sideways a little bit more, such as the Drake and the Talos. So yeah, that rock is actually pretty damn interesting. Next up, I'll have a quick look at the Tech 2 market. Let's see, the Absolution knew its big spike here, but that's not really one that I want to check out. The Astarte might be, no, actually it's the EOS that I might want to check here for just a little bit, because that's really a special one that's found an entirely new price range of 335 million ISK. Let's have a look here. That's corrected quite a bit, also a rise early part of November, but then a serious correction, and it looks like it's finally flattening out at around 305 million range. Average volume is only 10 though. And let's have a quick look here. Buy orders 293, sell orders 309. Anything recent here? Yep, that's actually pretty interesting. I think you can see all of these buy orders are pretty small in number and very opportunistic, you know, 280, 293, something like that. Whereas supply, there is a lot of supply here at the moment for EOSs that has already come online here, 23 of them at 310 million ISK. So there is definitely more supply than demand here again, which would indicate a continuing of that lowering of the price. Yeah, buy orders are setting a floor as low as 293. So yeah, the EOS price might actually correct below 300 million. If supply continues to come up here where the action is, where the competition is, at some point, you know, if they keep coming, they will have to continue competing against each other on these sell orders, and they will have to continue to lower the price, although it's known very high at 335 million in mid-November. Right now that competition has already taken them down from those price points towards 309, and considering where the demand lies, quite a lot lower than this, it's really not showing. I think that the EOS is going to continue to correct. So yeah, I find this extremely interesting. You know, Black showed me all about this supply, demand, volume, stuff like that, and I do think that you can tell that it's a much more in-depth analysis of the state of the market at this precise point. So it's not the same as what I did with the previous EVE talks, where I would look at general trends. For instance, if I look at this EOS market, you can clearly see that it was changed over the summer, or announced to be changed to become the only battlecruiser that can use 5 drones. This explains the fact that it went from a 210 to 20 price mark up to 320 on average. What I've always found to be pretty interesting about the Tech 2 market, such as this EOS, is all of these big spikes. Look at this, a jump of 30 million, a jump of how much is that, 50 million even, here 30 million again, 60 million, again jump here, jump here, jump here, serious correction here again. But what I've never really done is try and predict what it's going to do after this, you know. I've only said, well, this looks pretty low, looks like a good time to put up some buy orders, and that is probably true. The question is, of course, can you expect to pick some up here? And what's very important on that end is, of course, these volumes. You know, the trade is of around 10 EOSs a day on average, which is not that much. So I do think you can pick one up, you know, if you're willing to spend 295, something like that, and that might be an opportunity if this comes back up. But you have to keep in mind that's a lot of supply right here, 23 EOSs. That's good for at least 2 days, 10 here, 18 here. There's pretty much at least a week's supply of EOSs, which has to dry up before there's going to be any chance for an upswing again, because the supply has to dry up so that demand can once again overtake supply and then go back up. So it's a very interesting way of looking at the market, I think. And for the EOSs, yeah, this is probably a good time to just try and pick a few up on the buy orders, you know, be a little bit lucky that someone is willing to part for them on the low price. And then if you have a few, you'll have to wait for the supply side to really dwindle down, that the market has to work its way through the supply before you can put yours back on the market without having to compete against all of this, and then be able to make that 20, 30, 40 million profit on a single trade. So that's very, very interesting, I think, and it's helping me a lot understand the market quite a little bit better. So since we're working on ships anyway, I'm also going to take a look at the new cruisers. So let's have a look at the Stratios. Unfortunately, buy order still 411, 432. What is interesting on this is the volume, which started pretty damn high. What would that be? 400-500 Stratios in a day, but that is going down, and the price also starting to correct a little bit, but it is still holding on well above 400 million ISK. So yeah, you can see though that this is still pretty much balanced around whatever comes online right now. 1 or 2 Stratios is being put on the market just below current sell orders, and then demand. There is a lot of competition here as well. You can see quite a decent amount of recent buy orders as well at 405 million. So it does look, unfortunately, that the 400 million mark is a consensus price that the market is willing to pay. That's not really what I'm willing to pay for a Stratios just yet, but I have to, personally, I have to wonder if maybe if I really want one, if I shouldn't just croak and say, yeah, then I'll just need to buy myself Stratios at the current price. The reason for this is that we have seen the very few first information on the new Nestor battleship, an SOE battleship, which a lot of people are expecting with the next big patch for EVE Online Rubicon. And this is of course going to put a serious damper on the supply side of Stratios. At the moment, a lot of people have been farming and using their SOE loyalty points to bring this supply to the market, because they can get a really good price for the Stratios at the moment. But knowing that that a Nestor is coming, which could be a very interesting battleship once again, a lot of people might once again start to save and hoard their SOE points, causing supply to dry up, and that even from this price point, because of that, the Stratios might actually go back up. I certainly don't expect it to go down and to go below 400 million anytime soon, just because an even bigger SOE ship is on its way. That is being confirmed. We know this now. Don't expect the supply of Stratios to all of a sudden keep increasing at a steady pace or anything like that, because that LP market is going to have to absorb another big shock when that battleship comes out. So yeah, if you want a Stratios, unfortunately, in my opinion, you only have 2 choices. Spend the money, spend more than 400 million ISK on a Stratios, or go and farm the loyalty points yourself. Then all it really costs you is a good amount of time. But I don't really think that this market is going to go down, just because there's another even bigger shock than the Stratios on its way. And I'm really surprised that the market has settled above 400 million ISK with a decent amount of demand. Look at that, 5 Stratios for 405 million, pretty recent order. That's definitely putting a serious pressure on the demand side. A lot of demand still for Stratios, despite what I find to be extremely high prices. What is interesting is that the volumes are slowly going down though. The only problem with that, I think, is that supply might be drying up as well, because we are getting more information on yet another SOE ship, an even bigger SOE ship that will probably be coming to EVE Online decently soon. So yeah, it's very very interesting, and all of this is adding a new layer of depth to the EVE talks, I believe. So I will also have a quick look at the frigate. Let's have a look at that one. Here is the Astero. That one is settled still above 100 million, pretty much twice what I wanted. You can again here see that the volume is slowly going down here as well, around probably close to 200, a little bit over 200 in the last few days of them being sold. What you do see here is that there is a little bit more supply, with a big 29 supply, pretty recent at 119 million, whereas demand below 100 million is where you really go for the first decently sized orders. Although right here 106 million, 9 of them, yeah, that's also still in balance, I have to say. That's surprising. I would have expected here that the demand side might go lower more quickly, but no, a pretty recent order, 106 million for 9 Asteros. So that is definitely the price people are willing to pay. I would not be surprised if these are investors that also know about the Nestor and understand that this will have a serious impact on the supply side of Asteros. Once people once again start to hoard their SOE loyalty points, this supply could dry up, and this could drive the prices up quite significantly all of a sudden. So these could be good buy orders. This does mean if you want an Astero, you'll have to cough up 100 million or go grind the loyalty points yourself. So yeah, pretty damn interesting. Very unfortunate. I would have liked to fly a Stratios at this point. I'm just not willing to spend 400 million on that ship just yet. Yeah, I find it very very interesting. So what I will also do now, I still have some time, I'll check the Tech Tree ships as well, so that we have a full look at the ships. Pretty interesting here. A small uptick here throughout November, which was probably the announcement of the ability to refit the parts of Tech Tree ships in space, which was awesome for wormhole people. But after that, price going right back down. Currently a Legion on the sell orders for 100 below 150 million. That's very low. Loki close to 150 as well. Proteus below 150, ouch. And then the Tengu holding on at 151, 152. But all of their charts are quite similar. And the numbers, well, Tengus 2 to 300 a day, Proteuses 60-70 a day, Loki's also 60-70, and then Legions also 60-70. But all of them are correcting and going down. The question is, can we expect this to increase? Before that, I would always have said just we'll have to wait for CCP to do something before anything is going to change. The truth is we can always look at the numbers, and here you can see 78 sell order, pretty recent at 151 million ISK. Supply side, I'm seeing 15 being bought at 148 million ISK. There is clearly more supply. Same here with Proteus, 12126 at 136. Supply 65 being sold below 150 million. 10 being sold very recently. 148.79. So it's definitely on the supply side where all the competition is, and this is seriously driving down the price, and supply is still outstripping demand by a large margin, and that this is of course a very big part of the reason why the tech trees are so low. They're on their lowest points they've ever been. If I take a look at the 1 year charts, look at that, that's really on the lowest part in an entire year, and before that they were way higher. We've seen Tech Tree ships for 200-300 million when they first came out. So it's really that they've become demand has completely dried up for these ships. Supply is very high, very stable on this, and there's just too much of it, and that is what is driving the price. And this new way of looking at the market, looking at the volumes and supply and demand is really helping us to understand what's happening a lot better, but also to try and find out when this trend might break or not. So as long as we're seeing numbers like this, 26 sell orders, 65 sell orders, 28 sell orders, whereas the buy orders are staying well within the single digits, there is no reason to expect a turnaround. Look at that, 78 Tengus being brought to the market. I mean, there's a little bit more demand here every day with 15 and 10, but they're at 148. They're at extremely low prices. So we cannot expect Tech 3 markets to continue to go up. In fact, I would even expect them to continue to slowly trend down below 150 million for all of them. So yeah, you have very, very interesting. I think, thank you very much, Black Pantera, or yeah, something like that. He or she has a very difficult second part of the name, but it's really, personally, I think, and I like this. I like how I'm able to analyze the markets a lot more in a much more in-depth way, and I'm able to yeah, guess a little bit better where the market is heading, and I'm able to discern a real reason why a ship is going up or down, and I'm able to tie that to supply and demand. So I hope that you guys also find this information useful, and let me know if you like or don't like this style of Eve Talk. Let me know what you prefer. Did you prefer the single 30-minute videos that cover pretty much anything but work more with trends, or do you like me to also have a real look at the current state of the market and try a little bit to interpret the supply and demand situation on what the price might be doing next. Keep in mind, this is all, of course, just my opinion, but personally I think it's pretty damn interesting. It's costing me more time, but I think it's worth it. So yeah, let me know in the comments if you like this or not, and I will be back with a part 3 where I'll be looking at the rest of the stuff and then the plexus. Thank you very much for watching, and I'll see you all in the next one.